The first memory I have it was 44 years ago when I walked into a very old building that was leaking, and the actual ark was a closet. And the person that walked up to me was Mr. Edward Sean.
Beth Hamidrash was everything to my parents. My dad came from Iraq originally. He enjoyed the way that they prayed in the countries that he came from. And when he came to Vancouver, he found that there wasn't a Sephardic synagogue here. And he was really unfamiliar with the tunes and the pronunciations when they joined Shaare Zedek. So he and a few others that were here at the time wanted to have a congregation that was more to their taste.
You know, I was very taken by the fact that there was a very spiritual connection with the founders of Beth Hamidrash, Nassim Aboudi, David Asmucha, A.B. Benjamin.
Beth Hamidrash actually started when the old Ashkenazi membership dwindled and they needed somebody to take over. And so they approached a group of young Sephardic Jews that just came into town.
Before this building, we were like gypsy because we spent some time with the Shaare Zedek. They gave us a room. At the beginning, I remember we met on Friday sometime at my house. Then we rented a room at the school board, and the community came moving around. And when this was built completely, is the only time we were settled. But before that, we were the wandering Jews.
My father was the first president of the synagogue, and he was very proud of that, and we were really proud of him too. And my mother immediately took on the role of sisterhood president, and that was great for us, to know that they had taken on these leadership roles right away.
I was here when I was 26, and I'm surprised that I took part when I was young. In fact, I took part even more than I should have, because then my studies were a little left on the back burner. I wanted to see this grow, and we had no rabbi, but he and me and Gamliel all ran the show. And then we got Rabbi Basus.
And when I went there for my interview, it was very interesting. And one of the things I asked for, I said, I'm not coming here until I get a minyan every day. And that sort of threw them off. They thought, here's the new rabbi, he wants lots of money. No, I didn't ask for money. I asked for a minyan every day. And I asked for to build a library over there, to have some books and some tapes. So that sort of threw them off. But then they came back to me and they said, you know what, we thought about it and you're not really asking for much. And we looked to establish a new synagogue somewhere, and we couldn't find a site. So the next stage was to renovate the existing building.
I was very involved in the first, I would say it was more remodeling of the first synagogue, and we did it twice. And I mean, just look at this beautiful synagogue. When we pray here, we actually look through the skylight in the roof up at the sky. And I must tell you, I've been all over the world and been to several synagogues, and never have I seen a synagogue quite like this.
My first week working here, I was tasked with the job of organizing the grand reopening. The building had just been reconstructed, so we had 200 guests in and visiting rabbis, and the overall impression was the joy that the community had in celebrating the space, and that really set the tone for the 14 years plus that I've been working here. That joy's never gone away. People just really love being here.
And my first contact with the synagogue was with Tony David, who was at that time, he was the president, and they flew me in for a Shabbat, kind of a trial Shabbat, which was one of the best Shabbatot of my life. But I'll never forget, because Tony David picked me up from the airport, and I was expecting like someone very proper with a suit and a tie and so on. I'll never forget. My first image when I saw him, he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And that was kind of Beth Hamidrash. It was a very laid-back kind of place. Formalities was, that was for other places. I mean, they were 8 of the best years of my life. In fact, there's actually a few congregants that actually call me every year on my birthday. So to get a phone call on my birthday from congregants of a synagogue that, over 20 years ago I was there, that's very touching.
And I sit over there and I look at the congregation. And when I see somebody sad, I seem to share the pain. And when I see somebody happy, I share the joy. So what happened is we're connected. When somebody doesn't come for 4 days, someone calls. A few weeks ago, I had my first car accident, and suddenly everybody's calling me. Nothing happened to me.
We Sephardim have this very warm culture. And I've been to synagogues around the world. As I've said, I've lived in Israel, I've lived in London, I've lived in Newcastle, I lived in Gibraltar. Very different, diverse cultures. And the uniqueness of specifically Beth Hamidrash, of the warm, family-minded, tight community was something which I hadn't seen anywhere else. I said, this is the place where I would love to make my home.
We moved from Mexico City 8 years ago, and after 6 months we started to be involved with Beth Hamidrash. That it was amazing for us because we found our family in here, so it was the best.
A family is where people forgive each other and accept each other for what they are, and with love and patience and tolerance. And this is what you see in Beth Hamidrash on a daily basis. People are very different. We have people from almost every corner of the world and from all walks of life, and you feel belong. You feel just at home. Despite the differences, we are one.
Despite being Sephardic, we are not homogeneous.
It's so beautiful to see what is known as kibbutz galuyot. We yearn for the day we go back to Israel with Mashiach, please God. But you know what? We have a mini one over here. We have all different cultures, all different people from all across the world.
So different than Israel, you have a Moroccan synagogue, you have an Iraqi synagogue, each one has their own synagogue. Here, there's one synagogue for all of the Sephardic membership. So we have Sephardics of all kind and Ashkenazim as well. So really, I think this synagogue almost is like a mini Israel.
Coming from Winnipeg Ashkenazi background, there had actually been like literally one Sephardi family in Winnipeg, and coming here, they had such interesting and exotic backgrounds. I mean, my husband's family were Iraqi via India, via Japan, and there were, of course, many Israelis here, but most of them were from various Arab countries: Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, Lebanon. I mean, it was just like a different world.
So yeah, coming here was like an eye-opening, and it's just so beautiful because we all like pitch in from like our different customs.
Well, first of all, you got to eat Sephardic food. My mother was one of the best cooks, and she prepared some of the most beautiful Sephardic meals, lakme mishwe, kibbeh.
The Iraqi, this was kubba bamia, mahasha.
Rachel's Moroccan fish on Friday night is unparalleled.
The Sephardic cholent for Shabbat, the hamid, is definitely a favorite of mine. Also the different spices, the Moroccan cigars.
I think that I eat with the people here, or what we call break bread, more than I do at home.
Mazrucha, kippeh, everything, it's delicious.
The real chamin is where you take a whole chicken and you stuff it with a mixture of rice and chopped up chicken breast and tomatoes and allspice. And then my mouth is watering thinking about it.
I like the shakshukas, and mostly the spicy ones.
Charlotte Cohn's baklava was the best baklava I ever tasted in my entire life.
You have so many different types of foods which perhaps you would have never tasted anywhere else in the world if not being all together in one cholent pot.
Those things connect directly to the soul. So when I come into a Sephardic synagogue and I hear the same melodies I've been hearing since I'm 2 years old, it goes somewhere deep.
We like the tune, even though it's a little bit different than in Mexico. We liked it because it's more like a Moroccan style or something, and the lili, we try to bring that into the family here.
Because I've been so used to the tunes of the Sephardic traditions, you know, going through high holidays, for example, without those songs, without those tunes, is like I'm missing something. There's the Anenu song, for example. My father used to love to sing this song. And, you know, again, high holidays, my father singing this song, it brings back just wonderful memories.
That's why I love to come early on Shabbat, because that's the time when we sing the psalms, and the tunes now are part of me.
For me, it's the melodies, it's the singing, it's the Torah reading. It has to be that right singing of it. And since both my parents passed away, so it just makes me feel close to them. When I come to synagogue every Shabbat, when I pray, I know all my prayers, I know all my melodies. It just makes me feel connected.
When I turned bar mitzvah, I had my bar mitzvah classes here with Mrs. Akoka, and she taught me how to be like a Jewish girl. And the community taught me how to be raised in a home with like a family that is like loving and loving of Torah.
It also gives us meaning to life, you know. Honor thy father and thy mother. Do not steal, you know, be good to each other. You know, this added to the melodies, this added to the food, the Sephardic congregation is magnificent.
The fact is, we are the only Sephardic synagogue west of, you know, Toronto.
I always said that when I leave Beth Hamidrash, I'm going to put on my resume that I was the chief Sephardic rabbi of Western Canada. Sounds good.
Such a rich culture, an ancient culture. Maimonides, he was one of the great philosophers that the world knows about, whether Jews or non-Jews know who Maimonides is. He was from Spain. Just for that reason, I think it's important to support Beth Hamidrash.
For us as Sephardi Jews to thrive, I think we have to maintain and preserve and keep and guard all those traditions.
Beth Hamidrash occupies part of the sort of Jewish universe in Vancouver that you can't replicate with something else. To borrow sort of the Canadian concept of immigration, there's a Jewish mosaic in town, and without all the pieces, the mosaic would not nearly be as beautiful as it is. So let's keep all the pieces.
If we go by percentage, we are the most active synagogue in town. We have minyan here every day, despite the small numbers. We have a very nice crowd on Shabbat and Chagim.
And my wish is that in the next 5 years that we double our membership.
Well, we're very fortunate. We have a beautiful, beautiful building. And to get it this far was almost like miracles.
We have a new rabbi, Rabbi Gabai, and he's young, very energetic. He has a lot of aspiration, particularly with our future, our children.
So when we have a social event happening downstairs, the children are forced into a smaller room, or, you know, they have to be quiet, and we just don't have the space for the kids.
We are a small congregation, so sometimes you need a little bit of help from your friends.
With please God, we're going to have the expansion of the building to facilitate the educational programs which we're going to have in the synagogue in the future. Due to the expansion, we just are limited for space. Thankfully, these are the biggest problems we have. And we hope and pray that the synagogue will expand not only with the phenomenal work which the founders have done and initiated and set the groundwork in this synagogue, but also to bring in the new generation and to continue the legacy of the expansion of Sephardic culture here in Canada.
We thank so much Beth Hamidrash and the whole family from Beth Hamidrash to welcome us, and we feel part of this amazing family.
Mazal Tov.
A great Mazel Tov on the 50th year. It's remarkable, and you should only have another 50 more and plus.
The rabbi's wife is my niece. So Obviously, I care very much about their success.
Mazal tov Bet Hamidrash.
And as we say, Mabruk, may it be a blessed place, a place that is going to be a place of Torah, a place of social events, a place that people will come and will be happy to be part of this congregation. And I wish the leaders and the rabbi a lot of success in all of their endeavors.
And whoever helps you, Hashem should bless you all and bless the rabbi in his mission to spread Torah in the Wild West coast of Canada.
On this momentous occasion, 50 years of Beth Midrash, may we together grow from strength to strength, Mechael Lechael, until we, please God, wait for the day which we all wait, of Mashiach bringing us together and taking the whole Beth Midrash with the new building all the way back to Israel, to Jerusalem together. Mehera v'yameinu, amen.